Hi, I'm Joe and welcome to the channel. In this micro lesson, I thought I would share 3 ways to practice the minor pentatonic scale. Now these are just concepts and ideas that you can maybe apply to your practice sessions, and you don't have to do these all in one practice session. You can maybe focus on one type of way for 1 week and then switch it up the following weeks after that. Again, these are just kind of ideas to get you started. Hey, if you're new to the channel here and you find any value in this video whatsoever, please do me a favor and consider helping me grow the channel by subscribing down below or hitting the like button. I really do appreciate it very much, your support. Let's go ahead now and jump into the micro lesson. Number 1, let's knock out the most obvious one to begin with, right? And it's learning the 5 pentatonic boxes. Now, I'm not going to go in this video through all 5 pentatonic boxes because there are so many resources online for you to do that. That's not the point of this, but I want to point out a few things when you are practicing those boxes. Number 1, get familiar with the notes that you're playing in relation to the chords that you're playing over. And understand the scale degrees. So if you're playing a G minor pentatonic scale, understand that G is the root, the B flat is the flat 3, the C is the 4, D is the 5, and you have the flat 7 F before you start over again. Understanding those scale degrees is critical, but it's also critical to know when you're playing over those chord changes in like a typical blues, what do those notes mean? So as an example, when I'm playing on a G blues and I have my G7, when I'm playing a G, that is the root note of that chord. However, when I go to the 4 chord, when I play that G, I'm now playing that the fifth of the chord. So understand that, because lots of times we learn these patterns and we're just flying through them, blowing through them, and we're not even paying attention to how they sound over the chords. I actually made a whole series on this. I'll put one of those flying doohickeys. I don't remember what side they fly up on. And I'll put it out there. It's a Pentatonic Deep Die series where we actually looked at each note of a pentatonic scale over each chord in the chord progression. So when you're practicing that, make sure that you kind of understand the chords, the notes that you're playing over the chords, and don't just blow through them. And listen specifically to how each note sounds over the relative chord underneath it. I think you're going to find that's very eye-opening. And the other thing that I would do is make sure that you first start by targeting the roots when the chord changes happen. So again, this stops us from practicing our scales by flying through them, but we're actually purposely landing on target notes in our solos. Let me go ahead and play a little bit of an example of that. So in that example you heard, I was trying to land on the root notes of the chord. I forgot what I played for a second. So I start with the root, ended on the root, and then when I went to the 4 chord, the C, there's the C, the root. Back to the G I was targeting for when we went back to the G, and then for the D, C, G again, and then of course there's a 5 turnaround. So that would be the first thing that I would recommend, targeting the root notes when you're practicing the traditional way of these minor pentatonic scales. Number 2, limit yourself to playing in just 1 octave of the scale. Lots of times, we learn these patterns and we don't realize that there actually is more than 1 octave happening in them. And we just think we have to play the whole thing all the time. And that's not true. Think about it this way. Let's say you're playing this on a piano. Well, you only have this 1 G note in this case on the piano. But on the guitar, we have it here. We have the open string. We have it down here. We have it down here. So we have this same G note, this same pitch all over the guitar. And that's great. That's one of the benefits of the guitar, but also it's one of the hindrances from us coming up with something musical. So again, think a little bit like a piano player would and stay in just 1 octave of the scale. and just try to come up with as many musical ideas as you can in that one area. Also, think about it too from the perspective of a singer. A singer only can produce that one pitch at a time. But this doesn't mean we're limited, right? Because what's nice about the guitar, it's such an expressive instrument that we actually can think of creative ways to get into the notes. So you can slide into your notes. This forces us, by limiting ourselves to one octave, forces us to incorporate other techniques to help us say something with our music, say something with our solos. Doing vibrato, sliding into notes, bending into notes, all of these things help us express ourselves and actually kind of emulate the human voice a little bit. So what I would encourage you is to practice, again, in one octave and incorporating these different styles. So let's go ahead and see what maybe a musical example of that might be. So again, you also notice I incorporated the same technique I did in the first example where I was trying to target the chord tones, the root notes of each chord change. But I was just using the notes in this one position. So again, spend some time here because I really feel like this is where you're going to start to find your voice on the instrument because you're limiting yourself to come up with some expressive lines, some creative licks, and some ways that you're basically going to say those same notes but in different ways to express yourself. And the third and final way that you might want to consider practicing your minor pentatonic scales is through the use of unison licks or octave licks. And what do I mean by that? Well, you just, in the last example, in the last way to practice, I should say, you learned and came up with these wonderful licks in this one octave. Well, now it's time for us to start expanding our knowledge of the fretboard and moving across in different areas. And one great way to do that is using those same licks, but either in a unison way or an octave way. So as an example of a unison way, let's say we had a little lick like this. Well, I can play that lick there, play it here. So you can see that I was using the same pitches, so I'm kind of calling these unison licks because it's the same exact pitch and note. But in different areas of the guitar neck. And now this is starting to help me open up the guitar neck a little bit. Now again, take those same licks, but do them in octaves. Same notes. I think you kind of get the idea. Whatever licks that you kind of come up with in that one octave routine that you're doing, now start applying them and find them in different areas of the neck. Again, this is really going to open up the neck for you and have you see things a little bit differently. So that's really it. Let's recap. Number one, the traditional way. Get used to those boxes, the 5 pentatonic boxes, but pay attention to the notes and also pay attention when you're practicing. I would recommend highly that you're practicing to a backing track. I'll go ahead and leave in the description below, you can download the backing track I was using in this lesson just so you can practice along and have something to. Always kind of use your practice time in a musical context. I think you're going to find that you're going to grow a lot quicker that way. But listen to the notes and how they sound over each and every chord change. Number two is go ahead and limit yourself to just one octave of that pentatonic scale and see what you can come up with. Learn how to express yourself. Come up with great and unique licks that really say something. And then finally, the third way, go ahead and try to practice those licks either in octaves, like in an octave jump, or in a unison way, but in a different area of the neck. That's another micro lesson down. Again, if you found any value in this video whatsoever, please do me a favor and consider helping me grow the channel below by subscribing down there or hitting the like button. Really do appreciate it. As always, I wish you a great day.